So we wanted to introduce a practice to you around asking open-ended questions, because we have a challenge with the way that we ask questions typically, because we fall into the deadly three often. And these deadly three close down our conversations. And they close down our conversations when we ask closed questions, which elicit a yes/no response, when we add leading questions, where we're trying to get people to our answers, or we add a bunch of context in the form of a preamble or paraphrasing. And it gets in the way of the person we're talking to into coming up with their own answers. So in asking open-ended questions, I would invite you to try for using questions that start with what, hows, wheres, whens, and whys to allow our conversational partner to come up with their answers for themselves. And if we can ask those questions with the fewest words possible, it creates an opportunity for clear, more digestible questions. And we have another graphic on here around that looks like the locker. And this is just a reminder for us during these conversations to put our advice-giving muscle away for the purpose of building our capacity around asking open-ended questions.
And also for the person that's going to be in the conversation to agree to not ask for advice, because this is quite normal and natural for us. You already have an A in this area. And I would just say that this practice of the starting your questions with the what, how, when, and where is just building the muscles, I would call it the chops, to shift from what Ian has pointed out as the deadly three.
So we've created a practice for you to help you shift to ask open-ended questions. So the deadly three, I'm going to give you some examples of the deadly three. So the first being the closed question. So have you talked to your boss about this? Really limits what's going to come back to you. But if we can shift to asking an open-ended question that might look more like, who would be helpful to chat with about this? This allows them to come up with their own possible person that they need to connect with. If we ask a leading question, it might sound like, have you tried giving some examples to your employee? Instead of leading them, allow them to lead us. So what options have you considered? And then the preamble and paraphrasing might sound like, I can really relate to you on this. And what I'm hearing you say is that this has been going on for a long time and you're frustrated, blah, blah, blah. Instead, let's use their words. And maybe they use frustrating in their response to you. So you might say, what's frustrating you the most right now? Get them to articulate what it is that's going on for them, as opposed to you framing and maybe boxing them in to what you are thinking is happening in this conversation.
And I would say, as a person who has been a bit of a talker, as Ian knows, this has been a big piece for me, that the paraphrasing, some of us have been trained to do that actually, is about creating a connection, letting people know that you've heard them. But when we're really sussing out something really important to them, this can fill their head up. And so by keeping, using their words, we're acknowledging we're listening, and it gives them a chance to expand more versus us taking up the space and kind of telling them what we think we hear and see. So that's been a big shift for me.
So to shift you towards asking open-ended questions, I would just remind you to focus on leading with the what's, hows, wheres, and whens. Try to be as short and concise as possible and use their words. And I guarantee you will have a much better experience with your conversational partner and letting them find their own answers.
Yeah, it's been a big, big development for me. One question at a time.